Making sense of the senseless. That is what investigators are attempting to do right now, combing through the extensive writings and videos made by the suspect in that Minneapolis Catholic school shooting yesterday. So far, they show an attack planned in advance, an obsession with mass shooters, and writings that included anti-Semitic and racist language. What they lack so far, and what the police chief says they will do their best to uncover, is a clear motive. It's a common thread in community after community where this tragedy has struck. The search for an answer that may not exist or make any sense. Authorities have revealed the true horror these children and teachers were under. They've just announced the suspect fired 120 rounds from 3 weapons into the stained glass windows of that church. Stories emerging of heroism, a child shielding another while taking a gunshot to the back, of teachers protecting kids while being shot at, and children like 9-year-old June Helene speaking of the sheer terror she lived through with a chilling calm.
It was like a big firework that was like super duper duper like close. Like if like somebody did a firework that didn't launch off like in your ear, that's kind of how loud.
What were you most scared of?
I was scared about if I would get hurt. I was worried about like everybody getting like hurt and injured.
So you heard it, someone grabbed you?
My teacher just jumped on the floor and she kind of like motioned like for me to get down. And so then me and my buddy just followed her. And then she kind of grabbed my hand a little bit.
Something no 9-year-old should have to experience. Our Lana Zak is joining us now, and she is in Minneapolis. Lana, it's great to see you. I know you've been covering this story for the past 24 hours since this happened. Officials talked more about the shooter this afternoon. I want to play a little bit of what we heard.
The purpose of the shooter's actions was to obtain notoriety for the shooter themselves. That being said, I have only said the name of this shooter once, and I'm asking members of the media to stop saying the shooter's name. That was the whole purpose of why he did this heinous act.
So, Lana, we know law enforcement is pouring through journal entries and videos from the shooter. Do they have any sense of motive right now?
You know, they're trying to ascertain what exactly happened with this person because there was no criminal record. We also heard in that press conference that this person had maybe a speeding ticket, that's the extent of their criminal background as far as how well they were known to authorities, but in their writings, clearly deeply troubled. And the other part of that that was said was, let's keep the focus not on the shooter who hoped to obtain notoriety for these horrific deeds, but on the community, on the people here. And to that end, I'm at St. Mary's Church, and I was just speaking with Father Sass. He's actually answering questions right now, and he has been with one of the families in the hospital, Sophia Forchas. She's a 12-year-old girl who was just entering the 7th grade, and she is that one patient that we understand, she's at least in critical condition, according to the priest, and we know from Hennepin that they still have at least one pediatric patient that is in critical condition and that it is a touch-and-go situation. Her mother, actually a pediatric critical care nurse who is rushed in when she heard about the shooting to try and help children, help people, and then only when she arrived found out that her own daughter was among the victims. Father Sass explained that in all of his years in the priesthood, he has never had to deal with anything quite like this. And the emotion of it is hard to convey to our viewers in words, but I know that so many people feel it in their hearts. And that there has been an outpouring, not just from the community here, but people who've wanted to do more to try and help, whether it is on an advocacy level to stop gun violence, or whether it is even just to try and contribute words of support. And so Hennepin Hospital has actually put together a website that people can go to, hennepinhealthcare.org/love. People can leave notes for the families, for the victims, or even just contribute in their own way. People have been donating blood, and there is a critical shortage of blood supply around the nation. So it's not just for this individual tragedy, but it brings out the importance of contributing to our society in positive ways, Caitlin.
Lana, I got the chills when you were describing that mother in the ICU learning about her own child being there. I can't even imagine what they were going through. Thank you so much for telling these stories, for telling us about the survivors. Our hearts are with them. Thank you, Lana. And Minnesota State Representative Emma Greenman is with me now. I'm so sorry for what you and your community are going through. Our hearts are with you. Can you take a moment to just describe to us how you're feeling, how your community is possibly moving forward from this?
Well, thank you for having me. And I just caught your reporter who was talking and centering the families and the first responders, and everyone in our community is shattered, heartbroken, and wrapping our arms around these families of the victims, these families of the Annunciation community, and the first responders who have been put in such a tough position. And we know we are experiencing what families and communities across the country who have been victims of this gun violence are feeling, and appreciate the support and know we have a long road ahead.
Yeah, and yes, of course, you're likely referencing other acts of violence that we've seen come from Minnesota just this year, with the killing of your colleague and her husband, and the shooting of others. So again, we're so sorry about what you're going through, what you have been through in this awful, awful year. I do want to talk to you a little bit about some potential policy that could come of this. Senator Klobuchar, of course, Minnesota's senator, she's been outspoken since the shooting. She talked a little bit to us today about what kind of changes she would like to see. I just want to play a little bit of that, and we'll talk on the other side.
It would be a combination of things. It's never one size fits all. In some cases, it is a ban on assault weapons, or at least a ban on assault weapons for people under a certain age. It is doing something about repeat purchases all at once, doing something about ghost guns, mental health help, having certain things be a trigger so they look at the background of who's trying to buy the guns. There are things we can do that they've done successfully in other countries, but we have to, certain members of Congress have to have the political will to go ahead.
So what she's talking about there, we've seen time and again, there really has been no appetite for something like an assault weapons ban in Congress. But at the state level, I'm wondering what possibly you could perhaps propose, or what could move forward. I mean, Minnesota does have expanded background checks. You do have red flag laws. You do have some of these measures in place that didn't, work in this case. Perhaps, again, we're learning the details. But what kind of policy do you think could happen at the state level?
Well, I appreciate Senator Klobuchar speaking up, because we know that this is a national epidemic. We need state solutions. We also need national solutions, because we are fighting this again in Minnesota. It's been a really rough summer, but I know in Virginia and Colorado and Texas and Florida, communities have experienced the same thing my community is experiencing in the last 24 hours. We just passed those laws last year. It took years. I will say I was just last night at a vigil with thousands of people in my community. I today was at a press conference with hundreds of advocates and community members demanding an end to assault weapons and to high capacity magazines. I know that the public will is there, and so I'm not willing to give up on Congress and on the state. We need to do this. Weapons of war should not be in our communities. This is what happens when we have weapons of war in our communities, and the public is saying enough is enough, and lawmakers need to listen.
I can imagine at these vigils and just in your conversations with constituents, friends, neighbors, a lot of people are probably asking, what should I do as I'm sending my kid to school or sending my kid anywhere in the community? What's your advice? What are you telling people? What's the answer?
So we know that communities are stronger when folks are together. So knowing
Mm.
your neighbors, knowing your communities, and being together. I also think, as we have seen here, there is no amount of hardening that is going to protect us from this epidemic of gun violence if we don't actually deal with the guns. And so today, people are hugging their kids closer. They are working with each other to ensure that we have safe schools, that we have safe neighborhoods. But this happened at a grocery store, and it happened at a movie theater, and it happened when people are going to work. And so we need to take those actions in order to make sure that everyday people are protected doing everyday things. And I want to make sure that our communities know that we are fighting really, really hard because we are hearing them. The last thing I just want to leave with is that the principle of Annunciation said, "When you pray, use your feet."
Hmm.
This is the time we got to use our feet to keep kids safe, our families safe, and to end the scourge of gun violence.
Well, State Representative Emma Greenman, we're so grateful for your time. And again, our thoughts and all of our wishes are with your community. And we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.